I hate to lose more than I love to win. Winning was just an expectation. Losing was never okay. Football gave me so much in my life. Not only did it shape me as a person and my character, I'm a father, I'm a husband. They are the most important things in my life. Being a coach is not what we do, it's who we are. It is a lifestyle. So they have to be in it. The power of love, the things you are willing to do for those that you love is much more significant than things I'd want to do just because I hate the individual. You don't really appreciate the idea of time and how precious it is. When someone gives you a little bit of theirs, it's not about the stats, it's about how you make somebody feel in the end. And I always felt like if I could just do it to one individual and change their life, it was worth it. But then it's still not enough. Now you're so focused on the next one.
People have seen you a little bit being the USF head coach. They're going to want to get to know you even more. Who is Brian Hartline? Everybody's going to want to know the answer to that question. What is your makeup? How are you wired? What's important to you? How would you describe who you are in a nutshell, if you can put such a thing in a nutshell?
Who am I in a nutshell? Oh, goodness. These would be good questions for like my brother or my wife.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. Who am I in a nutshell?
Are you comfortable talking about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I might expose myself, but I'm highly competitive. I think that, I hate to lose. I always had a saying growing up, like I hate to lose more than I love to win. Winning was just an expectation. Losing was never okay. Winning was just, and that was probably not good either because you never got to reap the benefits of winning. It's just an expectation. It's not really an assumption, but it kind of is. Losing, I don't do well. Grew up like, you show me a good loser, I'll show you a loser. Like that's how my brain operates. So I'm not good at losing. So that's part of me. In my core now, growing up and now growing out of being immature, I'm a father. I'm a husband. They are the most important things in my life. That was not the case, for a long part of our lives, and probably a lot of maybe dads can say that, but you're very self-centered and self-focused, and I had goals, and no one was stopping me from my goals. But now with my family, it just changes everything: the perspective, what's important in life, all those things. So I'm a family man first. First my wife, and then my kids second, and I think that I've become a lot more appreciative of the time of others. I think as I've grown up, there's just, again, I'm just fully transparent. Like you don't really appreciate the idea of time and how precious it is. And so when someone gives you a little bit of theirs, it means a lot more as you get older. I appreciate that. I think that I have tried. At heart, I am an introvert, so like I don't talk to really anybody, and so this profession definitely forced me to get out of that world. Now it's still there. Like I'm not great at it. I'm still trying to do better with that. But like if I do communicate with you, like it's usually very sincere. And like in recruiting, I wasn't great with a bunch of numbers, but like if I had my 5 to 10 guys I was communicating with, like it was a big deal for me. So. Again, I don't expect them to understand that, but it was. So I'm getting better at that. I love the relationship building. I got into coaching because of the relationship. I got into coaching because football gave me so much in my life. And not only did it shape me as a person and my character, but even financially and business-wise and connections-wise and relationships-wise, it provided so much. So I got back into coaching to just try to give that to someone else. And I always felt like if I could just do it to one individual and change their life, it was worth it. Now, looking up, you're looking like, man, there's probably a lot of guys you've been able to influence a little bit, which is really, really special. But then it's still not enough. Now you're so focused on the next one and the next one and the next one. That's how our brains are wired probably as coaches. So I think in a nutshell, that's as best I got. That's kind of
that's a good nutshell.
What I'm about. Yeah, definitely plenty of mistakes in my life. Never plan to be perfect, but I try to do the best I can on apologizing and moving forward.
So you could work at this game 24 hours probably if you wanted to, but nobody can do that. So how do you balance putting in the work you need to put in, feeling comfortable with it, making time for your family, giving yourself the rest? How have you evolved in that aspect of taking care of yourself and taking care of your job?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, they say, work-life balance. There is no balance. I think that the best way you can do it is just being present. I think that when you are there, you must be present. And there's a lot of wasted time, especially probably with family and just not really being where your feet are. That's the one thing I try to avoid. So if I have to be at the office all day, that's fine. But then once I leave, like it's away. And so that's the best we try. There really is no balance. I think we have to do a great job in the off season at times. I think being realistic on getting things done and getting out the door and by 6 o'clock on a normal off season, like that needs to happen. That does not happen very often, but it should happen. I think. Yeah, I think the transparency, I think what we do a really good job here at USF is that it's really an open doors. And now we have a job to do, but there's no issue with families visiting the facility and seeing the kids in the office and them seeing you. I think it's great for the players to see you be a parent. I think that it makes you very, it humanizes you a little bit, and you're not just this coach and this war daddy that just always wants, it provides a little bit of softness to you. So, throughout practice, throughout the week on Thursdays, we'll have family nights, and families I hope will be here, and we'll be able to see them having fun with the players. So is make it as an open door policy as you can. Do the best you can being present on when you're there. Be where your feet are. I think that's the best thing you can do. And then frankly, my best decision in my life was marrying my wife. Like what we do is not. Being a coach is not what we do. It's who we are. Like it is a lifestyle. So they have to be in it, and if they're not, then it makes things really hard. But it's definitely a family decision to be a coach, and the time acquisition and time allotment is real. So again, it's not what we do. It's really who we are as people. But you got to thrive in it.
So when you were introduced here at your news conference, you talked about how the power of love is bigger than the power of hate, and you want this to be a program that leads with love first and foremost. Could you elaborate on what you mean there?
Yeah, it's good. I think that, as an immature person, I wanted to prove everybody wrong. Like I didn't think about it from my parents and the people that had my back and that, really ultimately, stuck up for me or any of those things. I just wanted to prove everybody wrong. And I just felt like as I got more mature, I understood that, more people have gone to battle, for the love of the person behind them more than they hate the person out in front of them. And that's really what it's all about, right? I mean, the power of love, the things you are willing to do for those that you love, right, is much more significant than the things I'd want to do just because I hate the individual. Like that's just shallow, and it's not really, there's not a lot of substance to that. A lot of times it's just emotional. So, when it comes to love, though, there's a lot of substance. And I think that love doesn't just happen. It's not just given. It's built over time. Hate can develop over irrational thoughts and emotional decisions. Love, that doesn't just happen. I think that there's a lot of substance there. There's a lot of time built, trust building. And especially for men, to admit they love somebody, that's significant. So I think there's a lot more runway when it comes to doing stuff in the power of love than in the power of hate.
So back home in Ohio, what did your mother and father do, and what big things did they teach you that you still carry today?
Well, definitely growing up, I was a big influenced by Lombardi. There's only one place, and that's first place. You don't win one every now and then. You don't do things right every now and then. You do things right all the time. Like that was grilled in my head at a young age from my father. So that was I would say again looking back was pretty significant. My mom was always a competitor. She was always reliable. She was always there. From moving kids around and getting us to places and being the backbone of everything. I think that, just their overall work ethic was really important. I think the expectation that you never quit anything. I know that as a young athlete, you're always, not happy. I'm quitting. I'm doing this. At least I was, because I was, hot-headed at times, more times than not. And so, my wife, my mom would just, no, you can not play next season, but you can't quit in the middle of the season. So that, that stuck with me for a long time. I think clear expectations on how you operate, and if you want to go get something, you go get it. Was taught by them, and but those two main compartments is probably the biggest influences they passed along to me.
And you talked a lot about being a guy that had a chip on his shoulder growing up.
Yep.
You still that guy, and
Oh, yeah.
you want players like that.
Yep, I still have a chip on my shoulder for sure. I would say that again, it's transforming though. The chip is more about the maybe the hate of others at times, in my mind. So it's more about my family, my 3 kids. It's more about the coaching staff that chose to want to come to USF with me, and the players that believed in us, and Rob Higgins believing in us. Those are more powerful to me now than just in spite of. So I think again, still a work in progress. I'll always we work on that at my core. It's still a chip on my shoulder. I loved running track in high school. I was a hurdler in high school, and I won a couple state champions. But as you can imagine, I was always doubted, in that space, and I thrived in it. I loved it. I would talk, they would talk, we would chip back and forth. So that's still what helped, build me as a young man.
At state meets where people staring at you say, wait, that guy won?
Oh, yeah.
Was it that?
Well, maybe early on. By my junior or senior year, that wasn't the case, but definitely probably more freshman, sophomore year.
Yeah. So you played at the absolute highest level at Ohio State and coached there, always contending for national championships. What did that experience teach you to be at that high level? Not everybody can be there, but you were there for most of your life.
Yeah, I don't know that actually, because that is all I know. And so frankly, that's all we're going to know here. And I don't know any other way. And so the expectations that we had there ultimately will be here. Obviously, guided expectations or guided goals. I mean, we want to go chase conference championships, and that's our number one goal. And I think that's really, really important. I think again, the biggest thing for us is a fine line. Just like at Ohio State, we were not focused on the results like the championships. We are focused on our process. We are focused on being the best 10, 11 units that we can, quarterbacks, receivers, DBs, linebackers, D-line. Like, if we are not the best version of ourselves in our individual units, we have no chance at those goals. So the ultimate goal, the only goal that matters is being the best version of yourself, so you can add to a collective and be the best version of that unit to add to the collective of the team, right? So that's ultimately how I know it. That's how we're going to operate here. We are not, looking ahead. We're going to be focused in the moment. We're going to win the moment. We're not worried about the past. We're going to learn from the past. We're not going to focus on the future because the future hasn't happened. We're going to do a great job maximizing our current situation, being where our feet are, winning the current moment, and then let the results reflect that. So, but to your point, like that's all I know. So everything we're going to do here and everything's going to be modeled here, it's going to have some kind of DNA from there. And it's still going to be our own way. It's going to be how our staff sees fit, how I see fit, and how Coach, Rob Higgins sees fit. But ultimately, the expectations will not dwindle, and we just got a lot of steps to take to get there.
So you learned a lot from some really, really good head coaches at Ohio State. What did you take from Jim Tressel? Just a couple of thoughts on him.
Yeah, very blessed to be around a lot of great head coaches. Jim Tressel. So I would say his consistency. I mean, that's going to be very consistent with a lot of these guys because they were elite coaches. But again, I'll say this. They were all very different that I've been around. So there's more than one way to do it. They've all been very successful. They've all won national championships that I've been around. But Jim, Coach Tressel, very caring, really, really cared more about the person by far than the on-field accolades. He wanted to look out for the individual, the person first. The athlete came second. To this day, I wish I could sit in his staff meeting and see how he operated as a coach. I only knew him as a player. So he would invest a lot of time and quiet time, if you will, quote unquote, where we were literally in the team room. We'd pull out our books and we'd be reading chapters throughout fall camp before we got our day started. Like that was part of our routine, something different than that ever did anywhere else. So he definitely put a strong emphasis on the person first and the player second.
Urban Meyer, what about him?
Urban was definitely more of your quote-unquote old school. He was very blunt, very focused around motivation, very focused around urgency for sure. Like, we should have gotten it done yesterday, and I know that we all feel that way, but, like, that was a constant thing. I think that he always kept you on your toes. I remember working with him and going on the road with him the first time and how nervous I was, but really I just wanted to execute at a very high level so he knew kind of how I thought and operated. And I think I did a good job. But, printouts and just making sure when he walked into a school, he knew exactly what was going on, calling ahead. I knew everything and made sure he knew everything. But he brought that out in me, is my point. It's like, having you on edge all the time. He had a standard. And frankly, a lot of what we talk about here resembles him and his culture. He had Ohio State. I think that I have a lot of respect for him. I love the way he operated. And he mixed in the family stuff. There's no doubt. But the football and the toughness and the expectation, it was more about. Frankly, it was more about how you ran the play with him versus what the play was. I mean, we're going to run good schematic plays. But he was more about, very, very, toughness oriented and grind oriented, and not for the faint of heart, for sure. You had to have some thick skin to be around Coach Meyer. But ultimately, really, all that being said, he just wanted the best out of you. He just did, and that was his way of doing it.
What did you learn from Ryan Day, the latest coach you worked with?
Yeah, Ryan Day is frankly a combination of both those guys. I always felt like Ryan was very elite schematically, offensively, football-wise, football brain. By far, probably the best one I've ever been around in my life, for sure. Again, I'm biased because that was the most recent guy, but that's just being honest. I would say that he definitely is a family man that had, more of the love, the more of the motivated with love versus fear, whereas maybe Urban was a little more fear than love, just honestly. But again, all three of these guys have won national championships their way, and so I think they've all done a really good job, including Ryan, of gearing the message and gearing the conversation in the locker room, in the team room, based on the individuals on the team. And I think that the way we recruited at Ohio State, the type of guys that we had at Ohio State, the type of atmosphere that current football is, I think it was the perfect blend where Ryan was at. I think that there's no there is still a very direct approach in making sure these guys know where they are and being harsh with them and motivating them and being transparent with them, but also putting your arm around those guys. So it's definitely, if I could kind of paint the two pictures, it would be taking Coach Meyer and Coach Tressel and pushing them together a little bit to get more of the personality of Coach Day. But schematically, Coach Day was very special, and to this day, it'd probably be one of the best offensive minds in college football.
So you talked also about when you were an athlete, when you were a hurdler, how important it was to get the right steps, to be precise, to seek an edge.
Yep.
When you're a receiver, the way you ran routes, precisely, so important. So much attention to detail. How big is that going to be in this USF program, this precise attention to detail?
Well, I think it's just a thought process, right? I think there's just like in life, there's edges everywhere, edges, angles. There's always ways to be more efficient and to ultimately get to the same goal. That's how I viewed it. I felt like, again, track analogy. My speed was X, and it was good, but it wasn't like world class. But if I knew how to shave, if I put 1/100th of a second off of each hurdle, and I have 10 hurdles, now you're talking about a whole 10th, off my time. That's the difference between winning a state championship and losing a state championship. So that's everywhere. I have to run from point A to point B. I'm going to catch a go ball. To me, the ability to manipulate these DBs and tell them to go somewhere I'm not, and then still show up at the same point at the same time that I need. There's all edges, and there's all manipulation, and there's all ways of angles to make yourself better. I mean, if I'm a slower linebacker, but I can diagnose the play earlier on stretch, and I can take a better angle to defeat the guard that's trying to reach me. I can still make that play. but it takes all those pieces. So now I got to do what? I got to study more film. I got to look for a tell. I got to find a way to find an edge or an angle or whatever that improves my game. That's what life's all about, and that's what football is all about. So they're out there. Ask Luke Kuechly. I mean, ask these guys. You listen to these guys talk. Ask Kobe Bryant. Ask the best in the world. Ask Tom Brady. God, Tom's everywhere. Like they're everywhere to be had, but you got to be willing to do it. And so that's the biggest thing. You know, I name those guys because those are the people I watch the most and I listen to the most. God rest Kobe Bryant's soul. But like for me, those are the guys I listen to all the time and try to get off of, information off of. And so that's kind of how my brain works. And I think that the more we can, pour into the guys and let them see that, then their athletic ability can double, triple, quadruple, just based on those small details, which, as you guys know, details changes everything. Like that's what it's all about. Like, frankly, everyone runs the same plays. Everyone does. And there'll be one cool play that's on Twitter that sure someone will run. It was probably a mistake anyways, but like the nut of it all is that it's not about the plays, it's about how you run the plays, right? So it's about the efficiencies and the coordination and the teamwork together on combo blocks and understanding that every tackle is a vice tackle. It's either with somebody or the sideline. Like all of that is huge pieces of football and in life, and hopefully that radiates throughout the program.
Couple more. You mentioned, at your heart, you're an introvert. You have a little house on a lake with your family. You're good?
I got one.
You're
just
good?
got one. It's been a life goal of ours to do that, and we actually just got one this past month. But it was in the works 8 months ago before all this. But we do have one. But I do. That's a fact.
So there's that, but there's also the public side of what you're doing. You're the head coach at a major college program. Everything you say is dissected. Everything you do during a game is going to be dissected. You walk down the street, people are going to want to pull at you, and your family's involved in all of this. So how do you reconcile all of that? You're entering a different kind of phase of your life with you and your family. What do you think about all that, and how are you going to cope with it?
Well, I like to think that I'm ready for it. I think I've been around it a lot and had some exposure to that. I think I'm never making any assumptions. I think that. I think the awareness is probably number one, like you're saying, and to be numb to the fact would just be reckless. So we understand that. My family understands that. We'll see about the kids as they grow up. 8, 6, and 3 years old, they're kind of learning as we go. But that being said, it's a great opportunity. It's a huge blessing, and frankly, that's what comes with responsibility, right? When you have the more that's asked of you, the more responsibility comes with it. So. I look forward to it. Frankly, I like to think I thrive in it. Put it on my plate, put the expectations on us, and we'll do a good job handling it. Look forward to doing a great job, representing USF the right way, and hopefully, it's with lots of wins and all the fun success on through the falls. But as people, as men, as a program, I also want to make sure that. You guys they're proud that way as well. I think that's obviously the first part. If you can't do it that way, there's no way you're going to do it on the field. So we have a lot of pride in that. But looking forward to the opportunity. Love being in Tampa, and hopefully there's a lot of great times here in the near future here at USF.
Final thing, when your time at USF is done, and we hope that's many years from now, many championships from now, what do you hope they're saying about you, your former players, the fans? Coach Hartline was this. What do you want to attach to your name about the way you approach this and what you're going to leave here as a legacy one day?
Wow, that's a good question. Never really thought about that. Probably should. I would like people to say I was consistent. Like you knew what you're getting from me day in and day out. I want them to know that I care and that I put the USF family and Bulls Nation up there with my family. I have that kind of regard. I think that one of the biggest things for me is I never want to let people down. Whether it be my family, whether it be my players. When a player chooses you out of anyone else in the country and they put their career in your hands, that's a weight now. Like if you don't see it that way as a coach, then you're lying to yourself. And so That's why at times as a player, I also got frustrated because I just felt like they didn't understand that. Like, you have my career in your hands. Like, get me better. Make me a better person and player. And I just didn't know if I always felt that from coaches. So I hope my past past players will make that comment. They felt like I gave them everything I got consistently, day in and day out. They feel that passion for me. And they may not, always agree with how I did it, but I was ultimately trying to get the best version of them out. And I wanted them to reach their goals. If they didn't reach their goals, I wasn't reaching my goals. We are not different. We are linked. So I hope they say that. And then, I think then ultimately there's a lot of respect for the way this program has been ran, the success that guys have after football, and the impact they can have in the community. I think is really, really important, because football is not forever, and so the ability to impact others, I think, ultimately defines you. I always like to tell these guys, like, even as players, stats come and go. Like, someone's going to have 1,000 yards receiving, someone's going to throw for 3,000, someone's going to, have hopefully 100 tackles, but someone else is going to do that the next year. That's really not how you're defined or how you're remembered. You're remembered not based on stats, but how you make people feel. Like, if you can give them an honest, interaction, and they can, understand you or the experience, or, you support a young kid, or down the road they had an interaction with, Bryson Rogers, like, that's the true impact. It's not stats. It's not about the stats. It's about how you make somebody feel in the end. And so hopefully we have a lot of those positive reactions when we're done here.
Coach Hartline, thank you so much. Spring ball begins on March 11th, the spring game, April 19th at Corbett Stadium. Before you know it, we'll be starting the season at Florida International on September 5th. The new era is here. It's ready to begin. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and go Bulls.